AEW, Wembley Stadium, the ticket sales came out. Apparently, they moved 60,000 tickets for this big stadium show. And I will say, Book, when they announced, I said they're going to do well because it's their first time kind of in the UK. But I didn't think that they do 60,000 once the tickets opened. And, who knows how many more they could sell, or even if it just capped at 60. This is the biggest show in AEW history. And it shows that there's still a large audience for AEW, even though, in my opinion, they've kind of gone through somewhat of a quieter time in the last couple of months. The demand's still out there. And that, I think if I was a AEW roster member, I'd be doing everything and politicking to Tony Khan to try to get on that show.
Well, yeah, I mean, the card is not even, pretty much have they said any matches yet?
No.
Yeah. So one thing about those UK fans, man, they're rabid, bro. They're rabid, and then you're gonna have people coming from all over the world to actually want to be a part of something like that. Also, that right there in itself, makes it unique, makes it special. It's almost like these conventions, man. I just came back from Manchester, man, and what a 2 days, man. Those fans came out and supported like crazy, man, big time. It was unbelievable convention. So I'm not surprised. Look, I'm not surprised one bit as far as what kind of audience that they've drawn, because there again, AEW is a worldwide company. It's a machine right now. It's got some momentum behind them, and if they could think about that stuff like that more often, they'll be in a much better place.
Yeah, I think that this show, anytime a wrestling crowd or a wrestling show goes over to the UK, it's always normally good. I remember when the TNA shows, I'd watch them on television. Y'all would have like 20,000 people in there, or 15, 20,000. It was always a really good house for even TNA back in the day. So for AEW to be at Wembley, which is already a stadium that's got a lot of pro wrestling history. When I say a lot, everyone, if you're a wrestling fan and you say Wembley Stadium, the first thing everyone's going to say is Bret Hart, Davey Boy Smith, SummerSlam. Like, that's what everyone thinks of. And for AEW, this could be the show that everybody talks about for their company for the rest of time. I mean, people still bring up that SummerSlam in Wembley Stadium for WWE. So this could be the one. And it shows that I thought to sell 60,000, they would have needed big names announced ahead of time, big matches announced ahead of time. So I'm actually happy to be proven wrong. It shows that the fan base is still out there and it's still growing and still rabid. And AEW is probably in. I'm sure they're all high-fiving backstage at Dynamite on Wednesday about moving all those tickets. That's a big deal.
It should be. They should be overjoyed. That talent, like you say, they should be chomping at the bit, trying to get a spot on that show, and understanding that, man, that television time that they're going to have, in that, in that stadium there in Wembley, that's going to be worth its weight in gold, man. This is a moment. This is a moment for the company. It's a moment for each and every one of those talent to be able to work in front of a crowd that size, because that's a WrestleMania crowd.
Yeah, 100%.
60,000. That's a WrestleMania crowd. SummerSlam. If nothing else, that's SummerSlam easy. So I'd say, man, good for them, bro. Good for them. I'm not going to be the one hating. Like a lot of people out there see somebody do something good, the first thing they want to do is find something negative to say about it. So you're not gonna, find me trying to say anything negative about that company, growing, as well as I'm the first one to talk about guys needing jobs. One of my girls, Promise Braxton, she just got a shot, with Athena in AEW, actually ROH, which is a part of
all the same kind of
AEW
thing
as well.
Mm-hmm.
Gigi is about to get her a shot there as well too. So I'm like, man, if my young talent can get a chance to, experience something like that, man, let's do it.
Yeah, and this is what I wanted to ask you about that, because 60,000 people is a lot of people. When you were coming up and you had your first, I don't know what your first big audience show was. I don't know. What was the biggest show you did? The
War Games. War Games.
So there are a lot of people there, right?
In Houston, yeah.
In Houston. So there's probably 30,000 or more,
or at least 30, maybe,
maybe 30,000 people. That was your first big crowd that you wrestled in front of. What kind of goes through your mind before a big crowd show like that? Do you think I got to be extra tonight, or do you try to go out and say, look, I'm gonna work the same in front of 6 as I am in 60,000?
That's the cliche. You know what I mean? No matter whether it's 1 or 100,
Yeah.
you're gonna go out there and perform the same way. But for me, the business has been a little bit different. There's always been a mindset. I knew when I came in, I was working with a lot of veterans, so I had a specific job, especially in the War Games match, because I was the youngest guy in the War Games match, with all the other guys, and so I knew, my job was to go out there and look good, making these other guys look good. That's what I felt like my job was that day, even though I was out there with, major players like Vader and Sid, and my brother and I, as a team. I still felt like my job was to go out there and make those guys, Sting, Davey Boy, make those guys look better than they ever could make themselves look, because I was the young guy. So I felt like I had a role to play. These days, it's a little bit different with, just say, for instance, per se, 2 AEW guys going out there. Those guys are going to go out there and they're going to compete and they're going to do everything that they possibly can. And hopefully they'll be thinking about, that one thing that they should be thinking about more so than anything. Let's not think about us tonight. Let's think about the fans. If you think about that right there, you'll win every single time. If you're thinking about yourself and how you're making yourself feel after you get doing one of your big spots, one of your big moves, you might feel a certain way, but the fans may feel the direct opposite. So you might want to think about having that, for me, what I used to call that out-of-body experience, to where I could be that kid sitting in the front row, so excited about what I was watching. You know what I mean? So hopefully those guys will be able to find that moment and make it happen.
So I guess my question to follow up on that is, you say you try to work the same, you put yourself in the fans' perspective, the out-of-body experience. But when you have 60,000 people, let's say, that pop is a lot bigger for the entrance, right? When you hit the spinneroonie, the pop's much louder. When you hit the the side kick, you feel a different rush from the crowd. And I guess does it help propel you? Do you jump higher? Does it feel better? Does it hurt less? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, does it give you an extra layer at all?
When you're in the zone, man, it's almost like white noise. You really don't hear anything sometimes, but you hear it. But if you're in the zone, you only hear it in those moments of where everything goes dark, double down, and you just did something so traumatic to where it was, a cause for that double down at that point. And then the crowd, they're so anticipating who's going to get up first, so you hear those moments. Or you just did a big move and it was a 1, 2, and it was the almost 3 count. And then the guy kicks out and the crowd goes, oh, everybody at one time. You go, oh my God, just lay right there, man. We got him. Don't move. Stay right there. That you're having those kind of, I get goosebumps thinking about that kind of stuff right there. But no, man, just take it all in. Take it all in. It's going to be a moment in front of 60,000. Like I say, these kids today, they go out there and they do it a little bit different. So I'm just going to sit back and watch and wait and anticipate how this thing going to play out coming up here in a few months. Stick around, guys. You're in the Hall of Fame. We'll be back in a minute.